Did Lynette fall out of the boat and drown in the Caribbean, or was she pushed?
And Aaron Spencer, what is the jury going to do with him?
Also, Fraser Bohm, 104 miles an hour, and the judge would not dismiss the M2 charges. Hi, I'm attorney Andrew Myers. This is About the Law. Joining me, co-host Yolie Medina in California. Yolie, how are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. Let's try this triple case breakdown one more time. We'll see. First one did okay. The second one did okay. We're going to try this format. It's a little bit different for us, but we'll try it one more time. So our first case is Aaron Spencer. Aaron Spencer is the man that admits that he shot a guy, and the guy was, he was already facing charges for the assault of his daughter, 13 years old. So people are saying, well,
I don't understand. The 67-year-old, he was already facing charges of abuse against his daughter, and he was out. What was he doing out? Why wasn't he in jail?
Well, that's a really good point. But the courts seem not to, many of them, not all of them, but many of them seem to be fairly lenient about that. There's a whole school of thought that, the jails are overcrowded. It's okay, but it's not okay. I don't know. Mr. Spencer has gotten the nickname of Hero Dad. I don't know about that. What do you think?
Well, I mean, I think he was protecting his daughter. I don't see how he could not have been infuriated that this man had his daughter in his truck, in the guy's truck, and was driving down the road, and he chased him down. He rammed him in the back. And but the thought is, if you ram somebody in the back, what if they had gotten into a horrible accident and his daughter's in there?
Yeah, exactly. And what if he had gotten into the accident also? I mean, is he such a skillful driver that he knew police apparently have training in how to, hit the vehicle in the back and have it spin just enough. I don't know if he's that skilled of a driver. I guess, the whole thing is just makes you, one of those cases that makes you shake your head. Let's go to my notes. As you know, I often, keep my own notes. I watch a lot of TV. I read court documents, as I did in this case, and I put my own notes together, and here they are. And the question is, in the Aaron Spencer case, what will the jury do to the dad who, he admits that he shot the teen daughter's accused accoster, but you never know what a jury is going to do. You never know what a jury is going to do. And so in this case, he is the Arkansas man who admittedly shot and killed a 67-year-old man named Michael Fossler, who was at the time out on bond and facing 43 criminal charges in connection with Spencer's teenage daughter, including assault.
What the hell was that man doing out? I don't understand.
Especially in a state like Arkansas, you tend to think, maybe the liberal states like your state in California and my state in Massachusetts, they do let people out and bad things happen. But I don't know. I always thought Arkansas was kind of like considered a more conservative state. I guess I'm wrong. I don't know.
Now, reports indicate Spencer woke up to find the daughter missing from her bedroom and went searching for her. Driving around, Spencer found his daughter in the passenger seat of Fossler's truck. Spencer is alleged to have forced Fossler's truck off the highway before shooting him. Spencer later called 911 to report what happened. Wow.
So he called him himself. He called them himself. And, he was later charged with second-degree murder and pleaded not guilty. His lawyers do not dispute that he shot Fossler, but maintain that their client acted within the law to protect his child from a predator. And it's like, I don't know if that's a valid defense. I mean, do I understand what the man did? Yes. Is that a valid defense? I don't know.
Well, the ramming him off the road is kind of dangerous because his daughter was in the car. She could have gotten injured. They could have rolled over. I don't know. It was a truck. And so that part kind of gives me some pause. But I mean, I understand that he was probably very angry. And it says, as we produce this episode, a jury trial is scheduled to start on June 22nd and is estimated to last 2 weeks. The judge, Ralph Wilson, has indicated that the trial could get moved up by a week, depending on the scheduling issues with the defense attorneys. A pretrial hearing is scheduled for April 30th.
It's kind of wonky. I mean, there must be some reason for it all, but I mean, when I get a trial date, I get a trial date, and I know to push things into high gear, but I know that the date is whatever date it is. And if the date is, June 22nd, I know that I have so much time. And if I got a phone call, you're going early, and that's happened, you kind of freak out a little bit.
Yeah.
In Suffolk County in Boston, it's often that you go and they don't have the jury, and you go again, they don't have the jury. You go and another case is being tried. You can go up there 3-4 times. And so you do get a phone call and you're ready because you were ready the time before. But I don't know. This is kind of weird. Judge Ralph Wilson is in charge now. He is a retired Arkansas Circuit Court judge who was assigned to this trial after the state Supreme Court ruled that Judge Barbara Elmore should be removed from the case. So they had to actually go to the Supreme Court in Arkansas and remove her. And the interesting thing to me, the real side note here is that he's running for sheriff. He's running for sheriff in Arkansas.
Yeah, in March, he defeated incumbent Sheriff John Staley and law enforcement veteran David Buford in a high-profile race, getting 53% of the more than 10,000 votes. That advances Spencer to run as the Republican candidate in the November general election, but he is not eligible to run if he's convicted.
Well, yeah, it's a felony, and felons aren't even allowed to vote, as I understand it.
Right.
That's a whole nother issue. I mean, he defeated the sitting sheriff. That tells you something about the mood of people in Arkansas, and if that's the mood of the people in that county, you just have to wonder, what a jury's going to think. I mean, you hope to get a fair, unbiased jury when you impanel them, but sometimes they slip in, and you just wonder what will happen. Spencer, of course, admitted to the shooting at the time, saying he did it to protect his 13-year-old daughter. Michael Fossler had previously been charged with abusing Spencer's daughter, 13. Spencer's search and murder of Fossler is said to have taken place October 8th, 2024, after his wife called 911 at 1:12 in the morning, reporting their daughter was missing. Spencer is reported to have followed Fossler's truck for around 6 miles, honking and flashing his lights. That's when he rammed it. Prosecutors then explain in documents that Spencer rammed Fossler's truck into a ditch and fired on him 16 times. And again, as you pointed out, his daughter's in that truck that he's firing at 16 times, striking Fossler 15 times. Spencer is then said to have called 911 at 1:34 a.m. So all this happened in approximately half hour, admitting the shooting, adding that Fossler was, quote, dead on the side of the road for trying to kidnap my daughter. What a case.
Well, I think what's going to happen is jury nullification. I think the jury, and for people who don't know that term, that means the jury is going to decide regardless of what the law says, because this is so outrageous that this man was out on bond facing 43 charges of SA for abusing the 13-year-old. I mean, it's unbelievable to me.
It is an unbelievable case, and it's been festering since 2004, and now it's scheduled for trial in June. A special judge, that judge apparently was a retired judge, so he was brought in, and that happens. I've had cases that they bring a judge in my jurisdiction. They call him a recall judge. The judge has already retired, but they bring them in. They're very competent judges. They're sharp. They really are on top of their game. But in my jurisdictions, there's a mandatory retirement age of 70. But they bring them back. Why not? Mm-hmm. And specially assign them. So that's how that goes. I don't know. Any final thoughts on this one before we move along to the next case?
No. It's infuriating, but
It is a crazy case. Okay, case 2. here we go to Fraser Bohm, second degree or overcharge. Now, this is in your state of California, so maybe you have more insight than I do, but this is another one of those cases that's been percolating along for a while. Fraser, of course, had just turned 23 years old when he was allegedly driving 104 miles an hour on the Pacific Coast Highway, causing a crash that killed 4 Pepperdine University students, all sorority sisters. Bohm now faces charges of second-degree M and gross vehicular manslaughter, and they apparently were killed instantly. Sad. There are photographs of the 4 young women.
And the charges follow the deaths of the 4 women who were all 20 or 21 years old at the time. Niam Rolston, Peyton Stewart, Aisha Weir, and Deslyn Williams.
Yeah, and apparently the car went off the road if he was going 104 miles an hour and slammed into a parked car and caused their deaths. Fraser Bohm's legal team filed a motion in Los Angeles Superior Court in Van Nuys to dismiss the murder charges. Attorney Alan Jackson, fresh off our karenread cases, called the murder charges prosecutorial overreach, arguing that the charges were legal error, where the only appropriate charges were manslaughter. Well, what was the other charge anyhow? The other charge was gross vehicular manslaughter. So that charge is there to be argued to the jury, I assume, but he brought the motion to strike the second-degree M. Judge said no.
Yeah, the judge, Thomas Rubinson, ruled that Bohm's behavior behind the wheel could prove implied malice, a conscious disregard for human life that under California law can elevate an unintentional killing to murder. And that is a thing. I mean, it's a reckless disregard for safety or human life, but it is a jury question, I think.
It's good to have you as a California attorney to explain how the law applies to this, because it is different in every state. These things are slightly different. They're not largely different, but there are nuances. Citing evidence that Bohm's BMW sedan reached 104 miles an hour before swerving towards the curb and smashing into parked cars, the judge said, quote, "I don't think anyone could seriously contend that the natural and probable consequences of that conduct in that environment, in that place at that time, do not involve a high probability of death," unquote. The speed limit in that area with houses on both sides is 45 miles an hour. You know, I live kind of out in the country, and some of the roads that I travel on to go to my office every day are 35 and 45. And it's hard to keep it down to that. It really is hard to keep it down to that. But 104,
well,
I don't know.
And on Pacific Coast Highway, that area, there's a residential part of it. It's not just a highway. There are some homes that are right near PCH. 104 is going pretty fast.
I think they call it dead man's curve because there have been other accidents over the years at that spot. And because of the layout, as you pointed out, this happened in a residential area. I've been on that highway exactly once in my entire life. I've been on that highway once in my entire life. So I can't really speak to it. But it seems to me there's parts of that highway that are really on a cliff. And if you went off the road, you'd be, flying down, many, many, many feet into rocks in the ocean. This was not that part of it, but I mean, it's not really, and it's a scenic road. It's a scenic road. I wouldn't, if I'm on a scenic road, as we have here in New England, I'm not driving a million miles an hour. But anyhow, I forget whose turn it is.
It's my turn.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay. The court hearings in the case have been heavily attended by mourning relatives of the 4 young women, as well as family members and supporters of the defendant. And he's a handsome guy.
Young guy.
Yeah.
Young guy. He just turned 23. Attorney Alan Jackson, as you can see, sitting there with the defendant, emphasized that Bohm was neither intoxicated nor distracted by texting and had no prior criminal or driving record. Quote, "Speed cannot be treated as malice," the attorney said repeatedly.
And the judge, pointing out that California Supreme Court recently raised the standard for implied malice to a near certainty that the offending conduct will cause death, Jackson called it absurd to say that the mere act of speeding on PCH is certain to cause death.
Well, but the judge questioned that. The question that Bohm, quote, didn't know how fast he was going. I mean, hopefully his eye was on the road and not the speedometer, but still, Jackson's response was that other speeding cars can distort a driver's perception. Jackson said, and I quote, "I was on that road 2 weeks ago. There were sports cars passing me. I was going 70, he said, raising some eyebrows in the gallery. Quote, "By the way, that was above the speed limit. I didn't realize it," Jackson added. All right.
He injects himself into the argument. Okay, so prosecutors encountered that the case against Bohm does not rely on speed alone, but rather on the totality of the circumstance and the totality of the acts that the defendant engaged in, including accelerating to 231% of the posted speed of the posted limit in a residential area with parked cars and pedestrians along the roadway.
Well, wait a minute. He said, on the one hand, the charges, the case against Bohm does not rely on speed alone. Then he does the math and says, well, he was going 231% of this over the speed limit. So which is it?
I think it's that it was in a residential area. I think that's the other facts. But yeah, it's primarily speed. But
primarily speed. Yeah. If anybody went 104 miles an hour down my street, they'd end up in trees because it's a cul-de-sac and there's trees at the end. And so things wouldn't end well for them, literally. The case involves allegations that will likely be argued at trial that another driver had engaged in road rage from which Bohm was attempting to flee. The defense alleges that was the cause of the accident. That driver, however, testified that he saw Bohm driving erratically and actually warned him earlier at a stoplight that he was going to hurt himself or somebody else. But Alan Jackson maintained that Bohm was, quote, trying to create distance between himself and a perceived threat.
Many observers anticipated that a trial date would be scheduled at an early April hearing in the case, but no trial date is scheduled at this time. A future hearing will be held on May 19th. It's just the continuance.
So in the previous case, the Aaron Spencer case, a trial was set and, at least people know that it's going to be tried barring some unforeseen circumstance. But this case is still hanging up in the air. One wonders why, because, it's been pending for quite some time. Maybe Alan Jackson, who's relatively new in the case, needed more time. I just don't know. But there's one little lingering question. They say he wasn't on his phone. Well, his phone has never been downloaded or extracted. So one lingering issue here surrounds Fraser Bohm's cell phone. Judge Robinson in early April ordered the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department to turn that phone over in a sealed bag to the laboratory of a defense-appointed technical expert. Prosecutors will be permitted to observe the data extraction to ensure, in the judge's word, that, quote, nothing nefarious occurs. How come the word nefarious always follows Alan Jackson's cases? I mean, I don't know.
Weird. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens on May 19th. Maybe they'll
Yeah. I guess my closing thought on this one, if I were to have a closing thought, would be that Fraser Bohm had been held on $4 million bail, and there was a motion to reduce it to only $2 million. We have that in our pockets here. The judge refused, and they were holding him on $4 million. So he paid it, or his family paid it. And so he's out now. As we do this episode, he's out. But they had to, post a bond of $4 million or do whatever they had to do to get him out. So that is a case and a half, a sad case, a tragic case, almost as bad as, or bad or worse. I hate to relate them or say one is worse than the other, but the Idaho 4 case in which 4 young people, 3 young women and a man in that same age group were murdered. So what a horrible thing to happen for the family. What a horrible thing to happen for those families and for them to have to wait. Apparently the courtroom has been packed with both the families and so even supporters of Mr. Bohm were there. Very unfortunate case. Very, very unfortunate case. Yoli, the third case has been all over mainstream media, and I don't know who, if anyone, has it right. But
Let me just tell you,
What?
there was a case that happened here in Newport Beach, just
Yeah.
down the there was a physical therapist who I knew, okay?
No
She worked
way.
at the hospital, yes, and she owned a business, and she married this guy, and
Yeah.
he was using her, I guess. They went out on the boat to Newport Beach. She fell overboard, and same story. He claimed he didn't know what happened. Then 7 years, I think it was like 7 years later, he got drunk and he told his girlfriend that he pushed her. He killed
Oh
her.
my God.
And after they broke up, the girlfriend told on him.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So
So
it just reminds me of this.
this case is just crazy. I mean, the story is that the two of them went out on a dinghy, which is a small boat. It's a small, very small craft, and I guess it's motorized. And there you see them in the bottom right-hand corner, in Happier Times. They go out on the dinghy, and he comes back to shore. He paddles back to shore and reports, "Oh, she fell off the boat. She fell out of the boat, and I couldn't find her, and she had the keys, so I had to paddle all the way back." But wait a minute, hold on the bus. My first thought, and I think a lot of people, because I've talked to other people about this case, and their thought is that the same thing happened in this case that happened in your case. Where, Newport Beach, did you say?
Yeah. Her name was Peggy. I forget her last name. But I knew her. She used to do rehabilitation of the elderly, and she used to come to our hospital, and she was a physical therapist, and she owned her own business, and it was very successful. And and they had a beautiful home, and she disappeared. I mean, for 7 years they couldn't pin it on him because there was no evidence until
Well,
he confessed.
that's really parallel to this case, because they questioned this guy, and under the law in the Bahamas, which I'm not any expert in that they could only hold him for so long, and then they had to release him. So the basic facts are that the husband of a Michigan woman who disappeared in the Bahamas after reportedly falling from their boat has been released from police. Husband Brian Hooker's attorney, Terrell Butler, told reporters that authorities had no evidence against Mr. Hooker, just like that case you're talking about, and were required to release him. Lynette Hooker was reported missing on Sunday, April 5th.
And Hooker, 58, did not respond to reporters' questions as he left Grand Bahama Central Police Station with Butler. She described him as very emotional and said he needed time to de-stress from this horrible experience.
So the husband, Hooker, was taken into custody on April 8th, just days after he told Bahamian authorities that his wife, Lynette, fell off the dinghy they were riding on April 4th. He said she fell overboard with the key to the vessel, forcing him to paddle to shore, where he notified police. I'm just kind of wondering, like, I am no expert in seamanship or boats or anything like that, but I did have a relative who had a fairly nice, large inboard motor boat, big enough that we could all sleep in it. So the dinghy is the very small craft that you use when you moor the boat and then you want to go into dock or into shore. So a dinghy is a tiny little thing, and it's not meant, in my understanding, for excursions, really, especially in rough ocean waters. It's meant to just, you moor your boat over here and you want to get into the shore, you use the dinghy. You tie the boat up out on a dock and you use the dinghy to get wherever you're going. So I question them going out on that, but there they are.
Yeah, I question that too, because I know going from Maine with my godsons, sometimes they'll rent a boat on Fry Lake, and that's how we do it. They get the dinghy is there, but you moor the boat. You lock the boat in, or what's it called?
You tie it down.
You tie it down,
yeah,
and then you take the dinghy to go to shore. And sometimes we can swim to go to shore if we want to do that. But the dinghy is used to go to the shore.
Right. It's just like it's a short haul transport vehicle. Now, people, I admit it, I'm no expert. I've been on boats. I've known people that had really nice crafts. So correct our nautical terms down below. That's fine. Correct our nautical terms. Be nice to us, but that's okay. We're admitting that we're lawyers. We're not experts in that area. But the other thing is, if you've been following along here and you have gotten something out of it, give us a like down below. hit the like button down below, and let us know if you like this format, because you know what? This is our third week. The episodes aren't performing as well as our longer form. We've gotten a lot of positive comments, Yoli. I don't know if you followed them, but we've gotten a lot of positive comments. We like the shorter episodes where you touch on a lot of different cases, but keep doing the deep dives, which we're going to. And I think when these trials come up, in the first two cases we cover, I think we will definitely cover those trials. Not necessarily live, but we'll do a weekend reviews. So where were we on this crazy case? I don't know. I hate to say it. I don't like to jump to conclusions, and I don't like when other people do either. But I don't know. I guess before I express my opinion, I should probably ask our fine viewers, who do they believe? Who do they believe? What happened here? What do you think, Yoli?
Well, like I said, there's no evidence. It's just one of those things where it's two people and it's not witnessed. And it's always hard to prove those types of cases unless there's video or something. But, when it's just two people, it's like, and, that case in Newport Beach, I don't think anything would have happened if he hadn't gotten drunk and confessed to his girlfriend.
All right. I think he pushed her. That's my opinion, people. I'm speculating. I don't know. Yoli is correct when she says there's no evidence. Maybe the Sharks got rid of the evidence. I don't know. But Lynette Hooker's daughter, the woman on the left there who's now missing, Carly Aylesworth, questioned her stepfather's telling of events. Quote, "I hope this was just a freak accident, but I just have a hard time believing it at the moment," Aylesworth said. "I just want to know the truth," Aylesworth said. She did not think her mother's disappearance was an accident. "I felt like this was probably pre-planned, if anything. Like, it doesn't seem like just some accident," she said. The stepdaughter, I'm sorry, this is your paragraph.
The stepdaughter also claimed that the couple had a history of not getting along, especially when they drink.
Both Brian and Lynette Hooker have had previous run-ins with the law. Michigan court records indicate that Lynette Hooker was arrested on charges of assault and battery, simple assault in 2015, but the warrant was denied for insufficient evidence as to who started the assault. According to a Michigan police report from that night, she and her husband accused each other of assault. So I'm always willing to give people a fresh start, and I hate when people say, well, look, they had problems in the past. But, if there have been difficulties in the past, and if allegedly alcohol was an issue, and we don't know that, just a statement that's been made, I don't know. I think it's highly suspicious. And apparently he says, one of the things that he said outside of the notes here is that he had, signaled to two other boats that there was something going on. There was distress. He wanted attention. But those two boats, of course, have never come forward. They didn't stop. There's no proof. So as you said, you being a more reasonable person than me, there's no evidence. But
Yeah.
I suspect something. I think it's going to go the same way as your story that you told at the beginning here. How long was it after the event that the guy, told his new girlfriend about it?
It was 7 years. I think
7 years.
But I could be mistaken. But I'll send you the story. It was on 48 Hours, Dateline.
Really?
Yeah.
And you knew her?
I did.
Oh,
Peggy.
okay. That is just something else. It's just a case that, it's been in the news. It's something that people are scratching their heads at. The two previous cases that we did, have been around for a long time. One of them is set for trial upcoming very soon. The other one, they thought it was going to be set for trial, and it will be, I'm sure. And, my plans are to cover those. So that's why I wanted to do a real brief summary here. This case, who knows if there's never any evidence how, as things stand right now today, as we're recording this episode, how could they even bring charges against him?
I don't know. That's the thing. It's so hard, especially when you're out in the ocean,
And if my version of events is true, he certainly wouldn't have pushed her if there was another boat within, eyesight. If
maybe they're trying to find if anybody saw what happened, or You know,
Yeah,
I
because
don't know.
the Bahamas are a relative. I was there once a long time ago, and again, I'm no expert. Just like I'm no expert in the in your California highways at all. But it's a very popular vacation spot. There's almost always boats around. I remember when I went there on a cruise ship, there were boats everywhere. You could see them everywhere. So they would have had to go out quite a ways from that island to get to a point where there was no one around. So it's at the very least suspicious. I would like to ask our viewers what they think, if they agree with me that it's suspicious that he pushed her, or agree with you that there's no evidence. So, well, you didn't really say one way or the other, did you? So I'll
No,
give you
I'm
the.
just saying that there's no evidence. Like, how do you? But when I send you that story from Newport Beach, you'll see that it's very similar, except that they were on a boat, not a dinghy.
And the difference also is that at some point the guy got drunk or whatever and admitted it. In this case, I hate to say it, but if the guy never gets drunk and fesses up, if he did push her, it's a perfect crime. It's a horrible, horrible, horrible thing that happened. I mean, it's just, get a divorce, people. It's a painful process. I know, but I mean, this isn't the way. I'm sorry. It's just not.
No.
So let's go to our viewer comments and see what they had to say this week. Now, these comments are on Karen Read. You want the odds or the evens?
I'll take the odds.
Okay, you're on.
Okay, at Diane1166. So they're saying just trust us when they lied about having the documents in the first place.
Yeah, this goes to the Karen Read episode, and we were talking more specifically about Sergeant Good, and the Karen Read attorneys, had asked, don't you have any of the disciplinary documents on Sean Good? And at first, the Canton police said, no, we don't have any. And then later they said, well, we do have them, but we're not going to give them to you. And then the talks continued, and now there is a motion pending, a motion to compel those documents from the town of Canton to Karen Read. So that's what that was all about. And I agree with this comment. Comment number 4 from Climber 950. This entire John O'Keefe murder is one of the most vile and disgusting examples of how toxic, incompetent, and corrupt government often is. Every single aspect of the investigation and prosecution has been immeasurable nightmare. Canton PD, Mass State Police, the entire DZA office, and worst of the system was Canoni. I get physically ill calling her a judge. She was nothing but the other prosecutor. They murdered John and made a mockery of the entire system. That's a common feeling. Again, as our banner at the bottom says, these are the views of our commenters, and it's a common view that we get quite a bit.
This is from Erica Lamita, 8502. The corrupt will retire with full pension and no punishment. The good people of Canton will have to pay for all this corruption. Well, we know that Tully is retiring.
He sure did. Right after we recorded our last episode, we got the news that he retired. So I put a little crawler along the bottom to point that out.
Yeah, and that's his deposition is supposed to take place. Was it this Tuesday or?
Yeah, I think it was.
Today?
Yes. Yeah, I think so. No. It was supposed to take place the same day that the judge wanted to hold the next status.
That's right.
Hearing. Remember?
That's right.
Because
Yes.
the judge said, I'm going to hold it on that date at 3:00. And they said, no, we have a deposition of Tully at 10:00. Well, do your deposition in 5 hours. And then you being the reasonable one here, you said, well, no, they don't have to just stop the deposition. They can suspend it and restart it either later that day or the next day or some other day. So that is the compromise. That my guess is that, that's what they'll do. Number 2 is Diane. She says, how does a standoff like this typically get resolved? Can a judge review the documents and make the decision? Well, we haven't gotten that far. A standoff like this, typically is you go in, you argue the motion to compel. Canton will argue against the motion to compel. Sometimes the documents are available, or an order is given to let the judge review them in camera. That means in his chambers, no one other than the judge and the attorneys take a look at. So yeah, it can be either way that happens.
Number 1 from Erner M. Do keep updating us on Karen Read's legal travails. The young lady faced 2 criminal trials with the prospect of imprisonment for life and is now having to ride the civil litigation train for the same night when her defense team all but secured 2 actual acquittals and all but demonstrated authoritatively that the Massachusetts State Police had conspired to frame her for someone else's malfeasance from the start. I enjoy the outrage of seeing what the legal system is still doing to her.
Yeah, it's a good comment because, at the end of our last Karen Read episode, I said, a lot of times people think that the civil cases are, more boring. They're not as exciting as the criminal case, and there's not as much tension because there's the proposition that, in this case, Karen Read could have gone to jail for the rest of her life or for some period of time. So there's more tension. There's more focus. It's more intense. And the civil cases tend to be less exciting, less focused, etc. And so I said, if you don't want us to keep covering the Karen Read cases, if you're bored with it, we got a ton of responses in the comment section. People said, yes, keep covering it. Yes, keep covering it. So we will. There are 2 civil cases. They've hinted that there may be a 3rd. So I don't know. Are you bored of it yet, Yoli?
No, not me. I mean, I like looking at civil cases. I like criminal cases better, but I also like civil cases because these civil cases arise out of a criminal case. And so I like those.
Yeah. I mean, the cases had so much angst and tension, and there are still people that put down in our comment section, she did it. How can you have a law degree? And, and it's like, you know what? We all have brains. We can all think and we can all analyze and we can all have our own thoughts, and that's fine. Say whatever you want down in the comments section. We encourage you to comment down in the comment section and tell us anything you want to tell us. I just always ask people, please be kind, be respectful of the other people, because you don't know where they're coming from. They might have read something that you didn't read. You might have read something they didn't read. So instead of piling on and calling people names, why don't we, start a new thread? Don't call somebody a name because they said something. Start a new thread and, tell them why you think the way you do. The real sign of an analytical person is instead of calling them a name, you can say why you think some. Well, the testimony during the trial said this, or a document that I read said that, and do that, because I think that our commenters are pretty good. Oh, I just thought of something I wanted to bring up. And I didn't talk to you about this in advance. So I'm going to ask you what you think about this. Do you know how some other law tubers who will remain nameless here have names for their viewers? They have cute little names like commenters or cupcakes or law nerds or whatever. I was trying to think whether maybe we should have a name for our regular viewers. And one of the ideas when I think of a nerd, I think of somebody with a pocket protector and they're walking around, kind of like. So I'm thinking we should ask our viewers if they want us to give them a name. My idea is this: throw the pocket protectors away. Tell us what kind of a name you'd like. Our commenters are very smart, and they really give us, most of them, they give us analytical thoughts and comments. And I was thinking of calling them law wizards. Do you have an idea for what we should call them? Let's ask them. In addition to
Smarty pants.
I'm sorry?
Smarty pants.
Smarty pants. All right. Tell us what you'd like to be called. Tell us a name that you'd like, subscribe, hype, and of course, hike. Take a hike. Remember that subscribing to this channel is free, as Lucky's going to tell you right now.
You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Ask it differently. I'm going to allow that.
Well, you know now because you follow. You pay for a subscription?
I do not.
Did you get one for free?
Yes. I was not paying to any social media.
All right, Mr. Brennan.
Sorry, I have just a few more questions.
It's denied.
I was not paying to any social media.
Okay.
This is the segment of the episode where I always put you on the spot, Yoli, as to if somebody's been with us through this whole episode, what kind of an emoji should they drop us to let us know they've been with us this whole time? I have an idea. What's yours?
A boat.
Great minds think alike. A boat. If you've been with us through this entire episode, leave us an emoji in the comment section. Leave us a boat, any kind of a boat. I don't know if they break it down specifically to a dinghy. But
Yeah, if there's a dinghy, that would be good.
all right.
All
Yoli,
right.
thank you. Good episode. Let us know if you want us to keep doing these triple analyses episodes. Otherwise, have a good one. Thank you.
Whether you are in the grocery store, the gas station, or anywhere else, please remember to be kind to people. You don't know what they're going through. And the same goes for our comments section. We want you to comment, but be nice, be kind, be positive if you can. And thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one.